why he's the department head. You gotta get his. You're a cool guy. Anyway, what's up? This is ACM. If you're not here for ACM, then part of why you're here. But my name is Mitchell. If you are new and you didn't come to the last meeting, welcome. This is going to be one of our workshops that we will be doing throughout the year. This one's focusing on the beautifully drawn logo of Github, which will become a presentation hosted by our secretary, Cole. He's a pretty cool guy and has quite a bit of experience in GitHub. And then we have an O'Reilly speaker, and your name is Josh. He's going to have a couple of his buddies come, who are all from O'Reilly, and they're going to talk about their experience with GitHub. So you might be asking, what is GitHub in the first place? Well, if you don't know, you're probably going to eventually use it later on in a computer science class, and it's just a great utility. I'm going to show you guys a video here in a second, but a quick little analogy of what it could be in the first place is imagine you're working on a project, but that project is like Frankenstein. Now, Frankenstein has a bunch of modular components. You just rip his arm off, right? You just put another one on. That's what GitHub is. You take the source branch, which is Frankenstein, and you clone him into your nice little local Frankenstein to work on yourself. So you code something in his arm for this is what his middle finger is going to do. This is what his index finger, or whatever. And then you're like, okay, well, I think this code is nice and good. So you go back over to the main, welcome, and you rip off the main Frankenstein's arm and you put your own thing on there that you just started working on. That's GitHub in an analogy. So now, I am going to show you guys a guy named Sean Plott. And this guy is an entertainer, but he actually talked last night about GitHub and his awesome/terrible experience with it. So let's go ahead and boot that up and unfreeze the. Yeah, I did it.
Cleaning. And let me tell you, that feels amazing.
I don't know why it says that. So that was his little horror story. He did all this bunch of work, but he accidentally just decided he was going to wipe all of it because he didn't do the one special command that you always need to do, which is commit. All right? Committing is very important. So that was day 9. He's a pretty cool guy. Now, if that made no sense to you, that is completely okay. For the next 40 whatever odd minutes, we're just going to be talking about Git. We have an awesome presentation coming up from Cole here. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and do that, that'd be great.
I'm Cole. I'm the secretary for the Missouri State ACM organization for computer science. And I worked at a couple different places where in my first place that we worked, I was using Git to do all of our management, and that was all development. And then the second place I worked, we used SVM because we were interfacing with which is a bit of an older version control system. And so Git is one solution to version control. Version control is this process that we can use to make sure we have a history and can easily work with other people on the same files. So, and GitHub is a very popular repository browser. So each project you will have a repository that's called your Git repository. And GitHub allows anyone to host their repository with a web interface if it's an open source project. So it's become very, very popular, and at this point I would recommend it as a tool, and I would say it's almost essential for you to be using Git or have history on GitHub in order to show code that you have written and how your code has changed over time, because those are very important to understanding how you work and how you will be able to work in a collaborative environment. This presentation is available on our website. At the bottom, we have documents now. And this is September 3rd, 2015 GitHub workshop. And that is a link to a PDF of the presentation. So we love GitHub because even though there are lots of solutions and lots of softwares in it, and especially when you get in industry, it's not necessarily the interface that you will be using, but it is one of the most popular for open source code and when you want to be able to contribute to a project that's larger. So a kind of history of these are SourceForge was what GitHub is now. Kind of served where GitHub is now. And then Google Code, code.google.com, is another similar situation. Except those, I believe, work on SVN. Okay. And so it's important, so a lot of projects are built through GitHub, so there's, say, Node.js code repository, and I believe Chromium is going through GitHub, and basically a plethora of other projects. It's really cool to just explore. So what we're really trying to accomplish is collaboration and understand how that works for us and how we can use it to empower ourselves to get more done quickly and learn from others. Because certain coders will all have different experiences and be better at, say, it's syntax or it's the patterns they use, and everybody has different knowledges in different sides of what they can apply. So collaboration is very important, and seeing how others work is one of the benefits of using a version control system like Git. So key points are your code quality over time is very important for collaboration, because if you're not ensuring the quality of your code, then your project just may fall apart, because it can just turn into spaghetti code and you're not going to know how it's really structured. So code quality can be ensured in a couple different ways by using collaboration guidelines that specify how code should be written, to what spec, to what recommendation. And one of my favorites is code reviews, which we can look over each other's code, something that we're proud of, something that we're not so happy with, and get feedback. Code security is very important to ensure that you have a good understanding, or someone has a good understanding of where data is coming in and where it's going out, to make sure you know who's writing the code that might have made that backdoor, just to inform them or educate. So, and in addition to that, making sure you're using open source third-party softwares so you have the ability, you have the opportunity to really review them and see that other people have reviewed them. And in general, what I mentioned before, learning from others. So this is seeing the differences in code from one day to the next, which is hard to do if you just see a file. You just see the file that they're working on, then you're not really seeing how it developed over time, or like get to an understanding of what their first approach was and how that didn't work. And that also is important because you can gain a perspective on understanding their code base and how you can contribute. So all of these things are kind of solved if a solution is Git, a version control system that is one of the simplest that I've used, and it's definitely the most popular at this point to start projects and repositories off of. So this is what we have frozen at the beginning. Just on screen, this is a screenshot of a diff, or a difference between files at different points in time. So this is a marker in your files history of the Git repository that says, here's what you did between these two files, between these two commits, as we heard in the video. And basically how Git works is it logs only these differences in files, so these additions and subtractions of lines, and it can compare them. And the fact that one diff, let's say you're modifying a text file that's half a megabyte, so a lot of lines, say it's like 2,000 lines, but you only modify like 4 lines to fix some tiny bug, then Git only remembers that you modified those 4 lines, and that's how it registers that this is the changes that have been made. This is a screenshot of some of the companies that rely on Git for a lot of their softwares. This was from the GitSCM website. So I haven't included anything that's local, it's just things that are really well known in general. So Git is different than GitHub because GitHub is built on Git as an interface to understand Git. Because Git is primarily just a command line tool, while there's other softwares like GitHub's client, and it's been a while since I've source tree and Git GUI that's provided on the GitSCM website. But we're going to look at how an interface can really help us understand a code-based repository. And what I'm going to show you is a software that I helped develop that's open source a while ago. Okay, this is a demo of the software that we're going to be looking through. It has a lot of moving parts. It's basically a open source solution to Dropbox or Cubby or Google Drive. And things that I worked on were this split view and implementing a code editor here, because at my first job I interfaced with a code editor for a web interface, so I was able to contribute that. But as we can see, there are many parts to this, so there's lots of parts of the code that can be changed. Because one of the things I was thinking about when coming up with this presentation was, like, when you're working on this small project or this algorithm, how are 2 people going to work on it? Because you both have to be thinking the same thing. But it's really when you get into larger projects that have a lot of moving parts. So one thing is this editor and how we configure it. Another thing is these buttons.
Can I ask for clarity? So what we're looking at there on the screen is the product that's running. And its source code for that product was the thing which was GitHub.
Yeah, so this project is on GitHub, and I have a few links to navigate to where we used Git and version control to facilitate our development of the software. So GitHub, this is the main page for one repository, and it kind of gives us an interface of the files and their structures so we can go through them, and we can also post different places that show information about the project and how you can use it in your project. GitHub provides us and other solutions besides GitHub will provide us a kind of to-do list format in order to keep track of what needs to be done and what you are working on. So what we could do is actually also end so that we see how it looks to a collaborator. So what we can do on GitHub is we see our list of issues, and there's other solutions to issue management like Mantis or Jira, and what we can do is take credit or say assigning. So I can assign myself to an issue to say that I am going to work on this and make sure that other people aren't trying to work on the same issues as I am. to reduce the amount of unnecessary collaboration or duplication of the code. And what we can also do as far as Git is concerned is we're able to reference different places in our code, what we've changed, and how we developed the code for review later. So here, as long as I put a issue number, we can say where the code has changed or what I did to change the code to get my product. And one more thing that GitHub can show us, or we can use GitHub for, I know I'm just kind of going through GitHub, but is on specific commits, we're even able to look at, maybe make comments on certain lines and say like, why is this written this way, or why are we using so many rules? And that kind of code review, more simplistic code review on specifics. So we also want to provide some resources. So at the end of this, you can go to the website and download the PDF through these, but we have some documentation